people go to jail.
Inevitable end. What feeds your energy?
It's like Disneyland for adults.
And it makes you kind of feel good?
That's all it is, So
Yeah, I never thought of that, actually. That's a good point.
You're just finishing a community in Haiti.
You're talking to me like a politician, okay?
The luckiest people are the ones who discover what that is, right?
Okay.
And if you have passionate about it, I think so.
Okay. How old are you?
69.
69.
Yeah. It's not who's right, it's what's right.
It was a question of women, and you started to talk about real estate market. Yeah. Interesting. Dear viewers, subscribers to Moscow Sotheby's International Realty, we welcome you to the next program today in the beautiful settings of Dukla Gardens in Montenegro, the city of Budva behind me. And my guest today is a friend of mine from Canada and the business associate, Hunter Milborne, straight from Toronto. Welcome, Hunter.
Thank you, Andre.
Hunter is an interesting person, and I will take my time to introduce him to you. He's Canadian, proud Canadian. That's what Canadians like to call themselves. Originally from Toronto, was born and raised and educated in Toronto, and became quite successful business person and the owner of a number of Sotheby's Realty franchises around the world. But his first claim to success was in Canada. Can you quickly tell me about your first great experience in business, Hunter?
I always had a love for real estate for whatever reason, and when I graduated from university with a business degree, I worked in sales for a publishing company, and always was drawn to real estate. So I began in the mid-'70s to sell pre-construction condominiums. So condominiums in Canada and most other places, 40 years ago, were a little bit of a new thing. So at the time, there was maybe 4 projects on the market in Toronto, and we were fortunate enough to list 2 of them. And we began to sell pre-construction. And over the years, we probably sold 750 projects in Toronto and North America, both urban and resort. And
that's quite an impressive number. 750 projects in North America.
Yeah,
sold by your company.
Yeah,
right?
About 125,000 individual units, about $35 billion. So, but we focused on one thing. We didn't really resell houses or do office or commercial or retail. We really focused on the pre-construction residential condominium market as well as resorts.
And tell me, I know some people call you kind of the king of condominium market in Toronto. That's what I heard about you. And tell me, if you take one element, what this element can explain the success or the secret of your success?
It's always good to be a mentor or have a mentor, and I had a good mentor early in my career, and he said, if you're selling projects for a developer, there's only one thing you have to worry about, and that the project is successful and that it becomes profitable for the developer and a good place to live for the purchasers. And I think that when you're in a lot of these planning meetings, because from the day that you get the mandate to do the project till the day it opens could be 3 months, 6 months, or even a year, and there's a lot of planning meetings.
Okay.
And you have architects and engineers and lawyers and surveyors and interior designers and sometimes famous architects, and there's a lot of egos in the room sometimes. So we developed a little saying that it kind of eases the tension sometimes when people are disagreeing about something, and I'll just say, remember guys, it's not who's right, it's what's right for the project, right?
Okay.
So that was probably one little secret that, we had to help plan a good project,
And Toronto is quite a city known for a huge boom in real estate. Okay, it's one of those booming cities with a huge track record of non-stop kind of increase of number of units on the market and growing prices. I think it started sometimes in late 80s or early 90s, and since then it was going up. Correct?
Yeah, we've had when credit crisis came in 2008. We had 2 quarters that were slow. Okay. And then everybody looked around and everything just took right off again, So I think part of it is because, Toronto is probably one of the most ethnically diverse cities in the world. There's communities from all over the world. So because there's all these ethnic communities there, and it's safe and friendly and just an amazing city, so it grows. So, when people want to immigrate somewhere, Toronto is one of their big destinations. So between the federal immigration and the domestic immigration, there's 150,000 plus new residents to Toronto each year, which translates in demand for about 50,000 new homes. And we haven't really kept up with that demand. The supply has been around 30 to 40,000 new homes every year.
Okay, that's a great pitch about the market you are in, but I will ask you a kind of not an easy question. Investment analysis analysts do kind of what's called attribution analysis, right? Attribution analysis means they try to find the major reason why something happened, okay? So if you take all the kind of factors which are attributed to the success of Toronto and your personal success in selling this things, what will be attributed to the market itself? I mean, the flow which you kind of jump into and your personal skills and success.
Well, I think, listen, as much as you like to think it's personal skills and success, I think a lot of it is just fortunate. If I'd been born in another city, we might not have had the same success because we have this rising tide that raises all the boats.
That's a good expression.
But, in Toronto, as an example, in the mid-'70s, Montreal was Canada's biggest and most successful city. It was earlier in the Seaway. It got discovered first. It was more French. The southern part where we are is a little bit more English. But the Quebec government, a separatist government, was elected in the fall of 1976, which was the year we started. And a lot of English people moved from Montreal to Toronto.
Correct,
a lot of head offices moved. So it was a political event.
Lucky event for you.
It was a political event. I mean, we got a 25% raise in volume and price simply because of that event.
Of the stupid political decision. Okay.
Yeah. So that was one thing, but I guess also because Canada is a little bit of a mix between a British socialist system and an American entrepreneurial system. It has a lower crime rate. It's safer. There's a bigger social safety net. So it's a little gentler place than a lot of American cities. So Toronto is really, the stars have lined up for Toronto in many ways.
So Hunt, I appreciate your modesty saying that the tide rises all the boats, including yours. But I know a lot of other boats who didn't rise the same rate as yours. So there is something also behind your talents and skills still, which contributed to your success, which is quite tremendous. So what are those things?
I think what part of it was focus, like specializing. We didn't try to do everything. I mean, our real focus was pre-construction sales of residential and resort condominiums. If someone came to me and said, I have a retail thing for you to sell, or a big house to sell, or office to lease, or many other real estate opportunities, we had the discipline to say no. That the other saying is you can
it's called focus.
Only dance at so many weddings. So I think that if you focus on something, you have a better chance to specialize. Plus, that same mentor gave me some advice early in my career. He said, look, do two things. He said, specialize in something, because the world doesn't like a generalist. They want somebody who's an expert. So decide you're going to specialize in something, and then whatever that specialty is, just decide you're going to be in the top 5% of your field.
Cool.
And then the world will take care of you after that, right?
Okay. So tell me, you're born where?
I was born in Hamilton, about an hour outside of Toronto.
Canada.
Which is a steel city. It's like a city like Pittsburgh, so many factories. Right?
Okay. What's your favorite Canadian dish?
Favorite Canadian dish? Probably your basic hamburger, I think.
Okay, basic hamburger.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not moose hamburger or something?
No, it's just regular. They have a good beef industry there. So.
Cool. Tell me, what's your favorite place where you kind of consider home?
Toronto. I think Toronto. Yeah, we have a nice spot there, and it's in a nice neighborhood, and it's really a great spot.
And what's your favorite place to go for vacations?
Probably Italy. I think Amalfi Coast or Lake Garda. Those are Milan. I think we really like to go to Italy.
And tell me, what quality you mostly appreciate in man?
I think maybe it's a lack of ego. Maybe it's not a quality that's there, it's one that's missing. Right?
Okay, interesting. How about the same question, but in relation to female?
Yeah, I think, when I think of female, I think of competence, because I think that generally, most of our staff are women, and I don't want to be reverse chauvinist, but we actually have, I think, selling homes and dealing with people in a whether it's a domestic, real estate situation or an investment, we find that women have a good ability.
I'm laughing because it was a question of women, and you started to talk about real estate market.
Yeah.
Interesting. Being such a successful person in one of the most successful urban conglomerate in the world, you decided that you want something else, and also you decided to move outside of Canada, at least part-time, and purchase some other Sotheby's Realty franchises, so the rights, including Montenegro, where we're sitting right now. Why you decided to do that?
Well, it's funny. Some people have hobbies. They do gardening or they do whatever. I mean, I like to go sell condominiums in another country. That's recreation for me.
So for somebody who's interested in investing in money, that's kind of high net worth individual or institutional investor, looking around the world and doing comparative analysis of different opportunities and choosing between, say, Canada and Montenegro, why somebody would choose Montenegro? What are the competitive advantages of this market?
Yeah, I think in Canada, one of the things that foreign purchasers don't necessarily like is, there's with that high degree of safety and that social safety net of welfare and unemployment insurance. I mean, we have relatively high taxes in Canada. A place like Montenegro,
including in particular 15% tax for non-residents.
That's right. That's right.
Which actually
that's right. Yeah.
kills your kind of, not kills, at least eats into your returns.
Yeah,
right?
Over and above any income taxes, right? So I think in Montenegro, you have a personal and corporate tax rate of 9%, which is quite modest. And I think it's really an emerging country. So I think that there's a high potential for capital appreciation in a place like Montenegro, because it's really only been the last 5 to 7, 8 years that the Montenegro has really seen a lot of new development, and I think it's just beginning.
Our subscribers often ask question about where the investment in real estate can bring some other kind of perks and bonuses, like appealing tax residency status or second citizenship. And Montenegro very often comes up as a question, because we know this country recently launched a special citizenship for investment program. Anything you can describe to us about that? Yeah,
and they want to do it to stimulate the economy and to stimulate jobs. So it applies only to new projects. And in the mountain area, it's 250,000 euros. In the coastal area, it's 450,000 euros. And then there's a processing fee over and above that. But I think that the two projects that we're going to be bringing out will both qualify and be sponsored for that. Like I said, one is a high-end project with the Auberge hotel brand. So it's a 5-star, high-quality community. And then there's a more modest one that is about 2 kilometers from the center of Tavad, and it has the unique position to be on the coastal highway, but also on the waterfront. So there'll be a small marina, beach, and 5 or 6 small buildings, mid-rise, 7, 8 floors. And that one's going to be significantly more affordable. So,
and we are sitting with you in another project called Dukla Gardens, which is quite beautiful. Yeah. What's your first impression about this project?
Well, I've driven by it many times on the highway, but I'd never gone on the property. And being on the property, you get a much better appreciation. And my first impression is that you don't get an appreciation for how well landscaped it is until you get on the property. It's quite spectacular, the detail and the amount of landscaping that's grown up. Because I guess that's part of the semi-tropical environment. Things grow quicker than they do in Moscow or Toronto.
I think they did a great job here in terms of landscape and in terms of architecture, master planning, good catering, good beaches, and good location. It's just you can see the whole Budva behind us. So you convinced me that's the place to pay serious attention to, and I'm sure we can reach an agreement between us as the owners of different Sotheby's affiliates to do something about that and bring our clients here. Make a next step. You recently purchased the rights for Serbia. So tell me about this.
Yeah, well, Serbia is a bigger country. It's 7 million people. Belgrade is almost 2 million, and the real estate market's quite strong. And I thought, well, if I'm here in Montenegro, it's next door. The flight from Tvat to Belgrade's less than an hour. I think that there's lots of potential for new projects. We're working on one mid-rise building of about 200 suites there, and another golf course community with villas. So both quite different, but both very interesting. So.
And what's, if I may ask you, kind of long-term investment strategy? Because you seem to accumulate different investment kind of territories or countries in your overall portfolio. Is it IPO kind of things in terms of your exit strategy, or just you want just a private deal, or keep it for dividends flow, whatever?
Yeah, I think it's really, I think generally there's sort of an inverse relationship between the stock market people and the real estate people. I think people in real estate like private things, and the stock market, the IPOs. I mean, I often joke that in the stock market, people go to jail for insider trading, but in our markets, our friends and our close clients, I mean, we thrive on insider trading, right? I mean, like, because it's not damaging to anybody, right? It's just somebody getting first pick. That's all it is, So.
Yeah, I never thought of that, actually. That's a good point, like, exactly. So there is nothing wrong with insider trading in real estate.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, how many times do we have friends and family night or insiders night, to go to our key clients and have a sales event before we go to the public, right?
Okay. And also, the information for the viewers is that Hunter is also co-owner of Dubai Sotheby's real estate company, and that's also the market which is definitely of interest to Russian client and subscribers. Can you tell a little bit about what's going on in Dubai today?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that attracted me to Dubai was that, in the last 30 years, it went from pretty much a desert to a big city, and it has so many amenities with many five-star hotels and fabulous restaurants, and it's like Disneyland for adults. It's just a great city. Dubai, having its Expo 2020, starting this November and going to April, they're expecting about 70 million visitors, whereas in an average year they might get 15 million tourists and business visitors. So it's a significant influx of population. And when Vancouver had its Olympics in 2010 in Canada, for 2 weeks it's basically a big television advertisement worldwide for the city. And subsequent to that, Vancouver got a lot of visitors and had a significant amount of real estate appreciation. So I think that Dubai might be in store for something like that in 2020 and beyond because of that big exposition that's coming.
What do you think of political correctness?
Political correctness. Well, now I think of Donald Trump, and maybe that's the opposite of political correctness.
Okay. So would you rather follow political correctness or just be against it?
Listen, I think that's a tough question. I think that if people are politically correct, I think politicians really should be serving people, and I think what they're really most concerned about is getting reelected.
What do you think of recent accident with Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau, and the photograph which was discovered?
Yeah, that was quite embarrassing for him, and it just shows you that when you're a politician, I guess your history and your life is not your own. But I think he's a genuine guy, and I don't think he intended any malice from that.
You think you're an honest guy?
I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah. How long you planning to live?
Me?
Yeah.
I think 100 plus.
100 plus. How much plus?
Well, listen, who knows? Once you get beyond that, then every day is a bonus, I guess, right?
Okay. What's your favorite sport?
Favorite sport? When I was in university, I actually played water polo. So that's a bit of an obscure sport. So in terms of participation, that's what I like. But in terms of being a spectator, basketball. I like to watch the basketball.
Okay. And what makes you the most excited? Any particular event?
I think driving a fast car,
Oh, cool.
And that's something I didn't do a lot, but, we went on a trip to Italy a few years ago, and I went with a bunch of guys, and we went to the Ferrari factory, Lamborghini factory. We got to drive these Ferraris on the track, and that was pretty exciting.
Hunter, may I ask you one personal question?
Sure.
Actually, a few.
Yeah.
How old are you?
69.
69.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Being 69 years old person means quite seasoned, experienced person. You're full of energy, right? You're running around the world, you're buying new businesses, you're developing them, you're consolidating them. What feeds your energy?
Well, I think that first of all, one of the most important things in life is you have to stay healthy, because if you're not present and accounted for, then everything else is really less important. But I think that I read this book maybe 10 years ago, and it was called Younger Next Year. And it was a really great book, and it was written by this guy in his 70s, and he said, the key to staying healthy is, sleeping well, eating well, and hard exercise, right?
I mean physical exercise.
Physical exercise. So I try to exercise really hard 3 or 4 times a week.
What do you do?
And most of it's weight training.
Okay, so it's not running, jogging, no?
Well, a little bit of cardio, but probably 20% cardio and about 80% weights. So one of my...
I won't ask you to show your muscles.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's next time, okay?
So one of my secret little aspirations is that I'm told by my son, who got into bodybuilding as well, that for my age and my weight group, I'm within 10 or 15 kilos of a Canadian record for a bench press.
Wow.
So that's going to be something over the next 6 months to a year that I'm going to, maybe when we have another meeting, I'll update you whether I was able to secure that or not,
This is a physical kind of platform for you to thrive, but there should be something spiritual as well, which kind of makes you keep going.
Yeah, on the philanthropic side, I think when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you're a little more focused on goals, achievement, and generating wealth and family and things like that. But later, we created 2 entities where we actually give away homes. And one of them is called worldhousing.ca, which is based in Cambodia. And the other one is newsstorycharity.org. And that's in Haiti. So we've given away under the World Housing about 750 homes, and in the News Story about 2,000. And we actually are just finishing a community in Haiti.
You're talking to me like a politician, okay? Like talking about this kind of charitable things. You personal things, empathy. I feel like I translate this into empathy. You want to help other people.
Yeah.
Are you saying the empathetic approach helps you kind of to keep yourself going?
Yeah, I think it gives you like a higher purpose. So it's one thing to I thought, well, all right, so whether I sell 100,000 condominiums or 200,000 condominiums, once you're gone,
right?
what's the difference?
Yeah.
But if you can help people who are homeless to get a home, that's a big achievement. So the World Housing was founded with myself and 6 other people, and the News Story.
So when you go to sleep, at the end of the day, you're thinking of this and saying, I did something right, and it makes you kind of feel good?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that they say is gratitude is a good emotion and a good thing to focus on, because if you have gratitude, you can't be thinking, it's hard to think positively and negatively at the same time. So I think that if you're grateful for your personal achievements, then it's a good thing to try to give back on the other side and do some good at the same time. I have a mentor still, who's a guy who's
have a mentor still?
Still, yeah, always.
Tell me more about this.
Being a mentor. So this is a gentleman. His name is Lance Secretan, and he's a coach for CEOs, right? And he's written many books. And so his philosophy is that we talk about motivation and leadership, and they're big industries, but he's kind of the pinnacle of that field. And he's saying that the world is a little bit behind the times, because he said that leadership and motivation are kind of yesterday. He said, really, motivation can be sometimes fear-based. In other words, here's a target.
Correct. Yeah.
Get the target and you get a reward, but the implicit message is, well, if you don't get the target, then what happens? And you have these performance evaluations and with staff and everything, and I think they're getting away from that. So his premise is be more inspirational than motivational.
So what's inspired you?
Well, I think that, I get inspired by an exciting real estate project for profit, but I get just as inspired when we can contribute to our World Housing or our News Story situations. And it's the same with staff, and it's the same with customers, because if you have staff, you have a responsibility to the staff to make sure that they have good career paths, and rather than leading and the carrot and the stick approach, if you can inspire them to perform better, it's really a better environment.
So if you think kind of 10 years or 15 years ahead, what a personal goal, not corporate, but personal goals?
I don't have any plans to retire.
Okay.
Because I think retirement was when people didn't like what they did and they look forward to stopping. So I think I'll keep going, and it'll be maybe a different pattern. I might not travel quite as much or whatever. Maybe I'll travel more. I'm enjoying life and providing a good service, and I think the other saying in life early is it's find a need and fill it, right? So if you can find a service that you're good at, then you can be satisfied, right?
Talking a little bit about life and the meaning of life. The famous psychologist, existential psychologist Irvin Yalom said that true wisdom is to find the meaning in the meaningless of life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so life is literally meaningless. Like you're born, you grow, you study, you work hard, and you die, right? So what's the point of all this? So it kind of looks meaningless. So the true wisdom is to find the meaning in the fact it's meaningless. Did you ever think of that?
Yeah. There's a number of authors that have written about those types of things that I've read, and I think that the luckiest people are the ones who discover what that is, right?
Okay.
And if you have passionate about it, I think so.
Okay.
We're still learning and still discovering, So.
But did you ever think of death as kind of inevitable end?
Well, death and taxes, I guess, are the two inevitable ends, at least in an income tax type of environment. But there's another guy, Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you ever read any stuff of him.
Austrian guy. Famous,
yeah. So I mean, he just said that the people who had purpose, the people who had meaning, had a much better chance to survive difficulties than
in concentration camp. He was there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. So that's an interesting story,
But I know both of us were planning to live long.
That's right.
Achieve a lot.
Yeah.
And do something good for both our companies and humanity as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So on this, I wanted to wish you success in all the territories you're trying to do something.
Yeah.
Montenegro, Serbia, Canada, Toronto, and Dubai. And what do you consider your biggest business success in life?
Biggest business success. Probably, we did a project in Vancouver many years ago, and it was the old BC, British Columbia Hydro building, and it was a bank, it was a workout, and they gave us 60 days and a budget, and they said it's either 90% sold or we're going to pull the plug. And the exercise was, because it was a workout, a loan they took over, it was not for profit, but it was how do we lose 20 million instead of 40 million.
You did it.
And we did it, yeah.
Cool. And what gives you the biggest personal satisfaction?
Yeah, I think working with the charities that we work with, I think the World Housing and the News Story, I think that's probably the biggest satisfaction. And it doesn't take a lot of time because we set them up and they're now both independent and they run. So.
And do you think a business person learns more from successes or failures?
Failures, 100%.
What's your biggest failure in your life?
Probably, I don't know about the biggest, but I think that one of the things I say to a potential developer when they're going to be listing a community with us is that we had this incredible experience over the years to make, or witness being made many, many, many mistakes. So hopefully we don't do them over again.
Cool. Is there any question which you think I should have asked, but I failed to do?
That's a good question. No, I think you were a very good interviewer. You're going to be, giving Jay Leno a run for his money.
Thank you, Adi. Welcome our subscribers and our kind of viewers to send us all the possible questions, and suggestions, which we can address to Hunter, who is an excellent person. Yeah. Particularly those people who are interested in investing in Canada, Montenegro, Serbia, Dubai, will be happy to kind of help to understand those markets and guide those questions and requests to Hunter. And Hunter, I'm sure, will probably is the most qualified person to kind of service those requests in respective jurisdictions.
Yeah, I'd love that opportunity, and I'd totally look forward to continuing to work together.
Thank you, Hunter.
Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.